Rachel Ziegler, the actress who rose to global fame through her role in Snow White, and was simultaneously hated worldwide for the very same role, is once again making headlines amid a fresh wave of controversy. Just last week, an interview surfaced where Ziegler appeared to confirm, more or less, her departure from the film industry. However, she insisted this wasn't because she was ousted or blacklisted by Hollywood. On the contrary, she claimed her transition to theater was entirely her own choice. But almost immediately afterward, the respected outlet Deadline published a bombshell report. Even in the world of theater, Ziegler has managed to spark another scandal, this time over her upcoming role as Maria von Trapp in The Sound of Music. The character, immortalized by Julie Andrews in the iconic 1965 film, will now be portrayed by Ziegler, marking the second time in her career that she's taken on a reimagined version of a classic, white character from a beloved cultural work. To put it simply, Rachel Zegler has a talent for stirring controversy and digging herself deeper with each step. Let's break it all down. By now, Rachel Ziegler hardly needs an introduction. The world knows her as the new Snow White, often referred to as the Black Snow White or the Latina Snow White. But aside from the fact that she was physically miscast in a role so tied to a specific image, what truly turned audiences against her was her behavior. For comparison, think of Disney's Black Little Mermaid, played by Halle Bailey, who looked even less like the original character. Yet Bailey handled the situation with far more grace and maturity than her younger counterpart, and as a result, avoided the level of backlash Ziegler continues to face. She's become the most hated actress in the world. Rachel Ziegler has, for all intents and purposes, been exiled from Hollywood. None of the major studios want to work with her anymore, and that leaves her with only one option: theater. And honestly, I don't know if this will surprise you, but this seems to be the fate of all the so-called stars that Disney once artificially elevated. Take Brie Larson, for example. After a quick and heavily manufactured rise to fame, she now finds herself practically irrelevant, pushed to the sidelines of Hollywood with only stage roles left in her portfolio. And now, Rachel Ziegler is going through something eerily similar. But unlike most, Ziegler somehow manages to attract controversy no matter where she goes, whether it's on a Hollywood set or a theater stage. According to Deadline, her critically praised performance as Eva Peron in Evita at the London Palladium has sparked what they describe as intense conversations about her possibly being cast as Maria von Trapp in a new Sound of Music revival at Lincoln Cantor. While nothing is confirmed yet, recent leaks like this tend to be accurate and usually manifest in reality. For context, The Sound of Music is a legendary 1965 film, with Julie Andrews playing the iconic Governess Maria, a performance that earned her an Oscar nomination. The film itself won 5 Academy Awards and is based on the true story of the Von Trapp family. If this casting goes through, it would mark yet another instance of Ziegler stepping into the shoes of a classic white character, again rewriting what many see as sacred cinematic history. And as always, Rachel Ziegler finds herself right in the middle of the fire. They fled Austria during the early stages of World War II, and immediately, the internet erupted in outrage at the mere idea that Rachel Ziegler might play such an iconic role. Once again, we're facing a highly sensitive and controversial situation. You see, Maria von Trapp, also known as Baroness von Trapp, was an Austrian singer, the leader of the famous family choir, and the author of the autobiographical book The Story of the Trapp Family Singers. In other words, she was a real historical figure, the actual woman who inspired the main character in The Sound of Music. She was born in Vienna in 1905, and quite frankly, just as she didn't resemble Snow White in any meaningful way, Rachel Ziegler doesn't match Maria von Trapp either. Not visually, not culturally, not historically. It's history repeating itself. For some reason, or perhaps now entirely by choice, Ziegler keeps landing, or choosing, the most iconic roles imaginable, roles that are, for completely objective reasons, fundamentally misaligned with who she is. And naturally, this triggers rejection and backlash from audiences. Now, all of that outrage has intensified, tenfold, after the disaster surrounding Snow White. What's happening now is that the scandal is no longer confined to film, it's spread to theater. And slowly but surely, Rachel Ziegler is becoming known less as a rising star and more as a professional provocateur. Someone who, intentionally or not, seems to stir up controversy with every move, as if she's actively trying to irritate global audiences. Interestingly, reports are coming in from all directions. While Rachel herself insists she has stepped away from the film industry, there are now whispers that Disney might still bring her back. Yes, for the second Snow White movie. Allegedly, this would be Disney's way of proving the critics wrong by doubling down on their choice. If you want to know more about that story, click the link in the top right corner and watch our full video. But let's stay focused. Because what's forming around Ziegler now is a very clear, and very hard to ignore, pattern. She has, in a way, become the go-to name in modern Hollywood and Broadway when it comes to recasting classic characters with updated cultural or ethnic identities. Now the big question is this a testament to her talent, or a symptom of something else entirely? Whether it's due to a lack of suitable roles for young actors of color, or simply the industry's obsession with provocative casting choices, as one article put it, remains up for debate. But for Rachel Ziegler, the consequences are already very real. Let's briefly recap, or explain for those just catching up, the latest bombshell, her recent interview and the surprising confession she made. As we've discussed before, the conflict between Ziegler and audiences around the world, fueled by her frequently erratic, even arrogant behavior, along with various behind-the-scenes issues, ultimately led Disney to allegedly blacklist her. In fact, it seems most major Hollywood studios now have no real interest in working with her. This is the same Rachel Ziegler who, not long ago, was being hailed as one of the most promising young stars in the industry, with roles in major franchises like the DC Universe, The Hunger Games, and of course, the now infamous Snow White remake. But now, she's been quietly pushed out of the spotlight, retreating to the London theatre scene, where she's already taken on roles like Evita and potentially Maria von Trapp. Judging by recent reports, Ziegler may be planning to stay in theatre for the long haul. Of course, a pivot this drastic didn't go unnoticed. And it seems Ziegler finally realized that denying the obvious was no longer working. So instead, she chose a different strategy, to acknowledge what everyone already suspects, but spin it in her favor. In her newest interview, she boldly claimed, "I returned to theatre by choice, and it's been amazing." She continued, "I'm the kind of person who can miss performing on stage the moment I step off of it. But let's be honest, after everything that's happened, it's hard, very hard, to believe this was truly her plan all along." Just 2 weeks after Romeo and Juliet closed, Rachel Ziegler said she found herself sitting idle, occasionally speaking to the press about Snow White, and wondering what to do next. In her own words, she added that theatre now feels like the best option for her, and that she's finding everything she needs on the stage, without chasing after big movie productions anymore. Well, to be perfectly honest, this statement about her voluntary departure from Hollywood feels less like a confident career move and more like a classic case of saving face. It's the kind of thing people say when they don't want to admit they were pushed out. "I'm leaving on my own terms," when in reality, they were let go. It's clear that Rachel is now trying to convince everyone that Hollywood didn't turn its back on her because of her behavior, but rather that she made the conscious decision to walk away. But when an actress publicly acknowledges she's left the film industry, especially one who was once considered a rising star, it's usually a sign of desperation, not empowerment. A signal that the path back might no longer exist. And yes, after the Snow White disaster, Ziegler did land one more role in a film. But it's a small-budget comedy with little fanfare, not exactly a career-resurrecting blockbuster. It's all quite the fall from grace. Remember, this is the same Rachel Ziegler who was discovered by Steven Spielberg himself for West Side Story. She was quickly rising through the ranks, working with major studios, and appeared destined for a bright future in Hollywood. But now, that promise has all but vanished. It's clear that through her own actions and behavior, Rachel Ziegler has alienated millions of viewers around the world, earning a reputation as one of the most disliked and controversial actresses working today. As a result, film studios are now actively avoiding her, not out of malice, but simply to protect themselves from the backlash and financial risk that her name now brings. And if her rumored next role ends up being confirmed, then Zegler might effectively become a symbolic battering ram, the actress studios cast when they are looking to spark maximum outrage. Whether intentionally or blindly, it seems she's now being used for roles that are guaranteed to provoke strong negative reactions. But let's be honest, with a reputation like that, it becomes almost impossible to maintain a stable career in Hollywood. Some believe Ziegler is, intentionally or not, destroying her own career, one role at a time, slowly but surely bringing it to a permanent end. Is that truly the case? Only time will tell. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned.